Previously on 24, the Immortals.
Adam is possessed by an intern of the previously mentioned old gods. We have an interdimensional being giving us very direct warnings, and no one's writing this down?
We're immortal.
What's the worst that could happen to us?
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, there's nothing bad about us for saying that phrase.
It's all going to be fine.
10. The locks are breaking.
9. The guards are dying. 8. The children are being taken.
Oh no!
7. The throne is empty. 6. The fallen towers are being reformed. 5. Everyone protected is no longer safe. 4. The sky bleeds with death. 3. The past is drawing closer.
2. The locations are discovered. 1. She is here.
Cursed by the old gods in Bethany, we are 5 immortals doomed to walk the earth until we complete our 1001 tasks. After centuries of dicking around, we are ready to complete our destiny and die. We are, for now, the Immortals. This is episode 50.
Woo!
Good work.
50.
This is very exciting.
This is really exciting, guys.
It is actually pretty crazy.
We did a cool thing.
So, the way it's worked out, we've had 3 weeks off. Some of the dash still didn't coordinate correctly, but the day this episode comes out, November 3rd, is the day we first recorded episode 1.
All right.
Because we released the first couple all at once.
All at once, right.
Prove that we are doing this thing. So,
There it is now.
yeah, one year, 50 episodes,
Yeah.
still alive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
The plot. In case you forgot.
Kind of our whole thing.
In case you didn't listen to what I just said a few seconds ago. So,
Oh yeah, at
Yeah, I
this
did.
point, every time you say that, I just sort of like go into La La Land.
it's shorter. Hey, remember at the beginning of the show when it was like twice as long?
I do remember that. It
Yeah.
was very
They
long.
cut it down. That was a good choice.
Yeah.
You can still listen to those in the first couple episodes. Whatever. I'm Austin.
I'm Adam.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Lee.
I'm Pedro.
And together we are the Immortals. Every week we review one of the 1001 books. Nope. Shit. Suck at this. I'm so bad at this show. I'm so bad at this show.
Only been doing it for a year.
You can do it. You can do it.
Oh, God.
You've done it too
1001.
many times at this point.
Yeah. 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows that you must consume before you die. Every week we are visited is too kind of a word. We are intruded upon by an intern of the old gods who has been giving us really upsetting messages of late with a countdown to this episode, meaning I assume he's very excited for this episode.
It's gonna be fine.
And the number we received to cover this week is 583. But let's go ahead and say what those are before we get into all those reviews. The movie this week is the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
The album is Rapture by Anita Baker.
The food is Zampone di Modena.
The song is Shipbuilding by Robert Wyatt.
The children's book is A Pair of Jesus Boots by Sylvia Sherry.
And the TV show is At Home with the Braithwaites. For all you Braithwaite heads out there. I saw 10 episodes of it.
You know there are some though.
I think it's Braithwaitians.
Oh, the Braithwaitians?
Yeah.
That's definitely what it is.
They're so hardcore. Probably. But also, every 10 episodes, we have to do a little bonus review in that, you know, we look at these lists, we are abiding by these lists, but we don't always agree with these lists. So every 10 episodes, one of us takes a turn and adds something to the list to put it up for henge consideration. And it is supposed to be my turn this week, but I want to cover the excellent television show Rectify. But as of this recording, there are only 5 left in the series, so it seems dumb to do it now. I'll just wait till episode 60. So instead, it's going to be Adam's turn again, who previously covered Arby's Curly Fries.
Yes.
No regrets.
No regrets.
And this week, very soon, we're going to be covering what else?
Sideway Stories from Wayside School by Louis Sacker.
Fantastic. fantastic.
Yeah, it's a children's book. I thought I would do a children's book this time because I do children's books.
That's
Yep.
true.
Mm.
And
Arby's curly fries were pretty good though.
That was a really great first choice.
True.
yeah, that was a surprise one. Other like sophistication, like why is it Moby Dick on the children's book list?
Yeah, exactly.
And you went no.
No.
This
But
makes
and
sense
I
to me.
think this book is kind of a similar choice in that respect because it's super weird.
It's
It
great
is super
though.
weird.
I have a henge fact.
Holy shit!
And I've been saving it because it's the best. It's the best henge fact. It's the henge fact that makes me love henges, and it is this, guys. Someday in your lives, you will perhaps be driving in Nebraska, western Nebraska. There is a town called Alliance, Nebraska, and in that town, there is a henge, and that henge is made out of cars, and it is Carhenge.
Wow.
It is
That is
Carhenge.
awesome.
It is Stonehenge, but made out of cars. And I would note that it is as wonderful as you think it is. It is a beautiful, wonderful place. I would also note, in a fit of adorableness, that the picture of me at Carhenge, with my super big goofy smile, was the profile picture on my dating profile, which is how Austin and I met. So Carhenge is blessed and wonderful, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And you all really should go there, even though there's no reason to be in western Nebraska. There is nothing in western Nebraska except Carhenge.
We will put that
Go
photo
there.
up on the page for this thing at
We
theartimmortal.com.
definitely should.
And now, Sarah, we're going to stick with you as we do an old business, new henge. Because there was a film that was in our top 5 until you
I
told
know.
me your review early, and then it left the top 5. Because
So-
Sarah caught up with the one film she missed now, Metropolis.
So I finally friggin' watched Metropolis. I will note I did not listen to the episode where you guys reviewed it because I don't know, that's weird to do, I think. I don't know. But
You're not a fan of the show.
No, I'm not a fan
It's
of the
too
show.
long.
But I oh my God. I did watch all of Metropolis. I liked it a lot. Some things about it were amazing. The scenery, the drawn backgrounds were all completely phenomenal. Of course, the scale of things was amazing. It's absolutely worth a watch. I mean, the acting's lame. Because it's just not, like, it's not about that, because
What about the fake girl? That performance was awesome.
I can't say that this is the best. This is a very important film. In my opinion, I can't say that it is the best that film has to offer, even within its own context and its own era. Just because something's important doesn't mean it is in and of itself great. A theme I will come back to later in this episode. And I love the scale of this, and in terms of what it can show that film can do. But in the end, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm going to give it a 3.7. Definitely worth a watch if it's your thing. If not, I highly recommend looking up some clips and stills. You will basically get what is wonderful about it in that, frankly.
Metropolis is still in our top 10 average, and you can listen to a longer review of that. Lee, you know what episode that is?
Episode 32.
There you go.
Nice. And now, we're actually going to get to a proper review now. Here we go.
But still not really part of the
Still
No. Why would we get to the content of what we have to do?
No. But, like I said many minutes ago, every 10 episodes we do a bonus review, and this time it is Adam's turn again, and he's doing Sideway Stories from Wayside School by Lewis Sacker, the beginning of his little book series.
So
Why did you choose this one?
This was, I don't know. I've read this a long time ago, and the stories have just like stuck with me ever since I first read it. Because they are just, I think it was just like nothing that I had really ever read before, because they weren't strictly inciting incident, climax, resolving, or, resolution. Like a lot of stories are. It was just kind of silly the whole time. And I think that some of these, it's what a lot of the children's books that we read are missing, which is a very important part of childhood, which is to just like be silly and not necessarily make sense all the time.
Well, why don't you describe what this book's about, and especially how this school...
Oh, yeah, why don't I do that?
Yeah,
great. So,
sorry, it's our first show, guys.
I know, it's our first show. This is the repilot. Wayside School was a school that was supposed to be built horizontally, but it was actually built vertically. So instead of 30 horizontal rooms, there are 30 vertical stories, and because of that, there are a lot of strange happenings there.
I'd like everybody to know that the builder is very sorry.
He's very sorry.
I love that line.
That he was so mistaken. There is no 19th floor.
He's sorry about that, too.
He's sorry about that as well. And the first story is about this like terrible witch teacher that these children have, who turns everyone into apples. And it gets stranger from there, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so it's just short stories, each one titled a member, one of the children in the school, and so it focuses on the one child, and tells like a little short story about them.
And
so
there's
that's the book.
A few pages long, but what's so impressive is that, because, in this latest incarnation of our lives, I read this series, and it was my first real introduction to absurdism. Mm-hmm. And it does it in a really masterful way where it can be completely understood by all ages. And it's very silly, it's very kind of, the prose is very direct, but it's still up to you to kind of recognize what's off because the characters don't think they're weird. Like, one thing I love is that they only have one stairwell for this 30-story building. Yeah. It's only one set of stairs.
Of course.
And to keep things, safe, you go up the stairs on the right and you go down on the left. There's one set of stairs. Mm-hmm. It's things like that with just delightful strangeness and weirdness. I've not read this in probably over 15 years, and reading this again, I remembered every story as it was going.
Yeah, I did too. And I think what I loved about them is, and I think Louis Sachar in many ways is, I have to think that he has some major lasting contribution to the millennial sense of humor. I think in some ways, little did he know that that this sense of humor was going to be so relevant to our current generation's zeitgeist. But the sort of deadpan absurdism of Wayside, and then the other major Louis Sachar books, which I don't know if it's on the list, but it should be.
Holes
is Holes, which is an amazing book, but that has a lot more depth to it than Wayside School. But at the same time, some of the stories have a slight message to them, and when there is a message, it is always like an anarchy and sort of reaffirmation of the beauty of childhood kind of message. That maybe these kids are smarter than adults think they are, but never in a heavy-handed way. There are also stories that are not about anything at all, and are weird and crazy, and make no sense. I think one of my favorite ones is when, I think it's the Terrence story. No, it's the one where one of the kids is asked to deliver a note.
That's the left side up.
No, it's a different one. It's when he's asked to deliver a note to Mrs. Zarves, who works on the 19th floor. There is no 19th floor, there is no Mrs. Zarves, and there is no note. And the kid is just wandering around in an absurdist nightmare. And it's weird and high concept and makes no sense. And it's beautiful.
My favorite weird one was story 25, Jenny, where the punchline is that she accidentally went to school on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. But it's filled with these men who won't tell what's going on. They all have attaché cases. And, there's just some really weird, mysterious shit going on in the school on Saturday.
For sure.
And they're not going to explain any of it.
Yeah. No one knows what those men are doing there.
So, Pedro, was this your first time reading it?
It was.
Oh my gosh, really?
I'd never been exposed to this before, and I fell in love with it, instantly.
It's so great.
It is exactly just that kind of absurdism, and they do throw you in gently, because it's the adults that are idiots, and the kids, you're like, okay, well, at least they're sane, and they're not overly terrible yet. It's just, you see that they're just they happen to inhabit a world that's weird and crazy, and you get into it, and then everything just goes to shit in a wonderful way. There are just little bits here. One thing that I particularly loved was, actually I think it was towards the end, math wasn't working. 4 plus 4 wasn't equaling.
Yeah, it's an issue.
2 plus 2 wasn't equaling 4. And I just like the offhanded comment, if 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, anything's possible. Which is literally true in deductive logical systems, if it's, you could prove anything. And that made me really happy. I don't know what my favorite story would be, though. There's a lot to think about. I don't know. I'll ponder on that.
Lee, this was your first time reading as well, right?
Correct.
What do you think?
This book reminded me why I hate children and why I'm glad I'm no longer a child.
Oh my god, Lee, you're a bad person. I mean, I love you, but...
Well,
like,
in what way?
I felt like numerous of the children were purposefully obtuse. Like, I can't count to 10 the right way. Hurt. It's like, no, you're being difficult. Why are you being difficult? Just learn how to count like a normal person.
Well, Lee, all the characters are insane.
I get that. Even crazy people can learn how to count.
And I think that's the goal of Wayside School. I mean, these are kids who, like, compulsively keep kicking balls over the fence, is obsessed with ice cream flavors, and then becomes her own ice cream flavor.
Which is something.
The one about the pigtails really annoyed me.
Oh, I love that one.
Like, kid, stop being a jerk. Stop pulling your pigtails.
But, like, that's the kind of one that I love because it really does capture something that one is just, like, a straight up, like, captures something about childhood. Is that he does stop being a jerk. Like, he's a jerk once when he pulls one pigtail, and he's a jerk a second time and pulls the other pigtail, and then he makes a decision that he's not going to do it again. I mean, admittedly, because he's made, like, a realization that he can get away with, like, that amount of misbehavior, but not anymore, and then he's blamed for something he didn't do. And that's just, like, such a universal elementary school experience of getting disciplined for something that you didn't do, that some other kid did, and no one cares, and no one is listening to you, and you sort of shrug and start to realize that the world is an unjust and terrible place.
What I really liked and identified with was he had to even it out. Otherwise...
That is major logic to its full.
Yeah. No, he knew that he was being a jerk. He was just compelled
He's
to
like, but I have to even it out. I have to pull the second one now. And I was like, I get that.
And sometimes the kids are the worst. Like the kid who was not a kid, but just a rat.
Yeah, there's that story about the kid that's just a dead rat.
Oh, and another thing I loved about the pigtails, I remember my grandfather telling me the story of how he dipped the girl's pigtails in his inkwell.
Right, which is a classic, a classic
He's
story.
like, I did this. And I was like, that's awesome.
So also worth noting, just to be never completely topical, last week we kept discussing Game 1 of the World Series while it's happening.
It's now Game 6.
Days over. This is Game 6. But we're winning this time because...
Well, don't say that yet. What the hell is wrong with you?
They already know who won the World Series by now. This comes out on Thursday.
I don't care.
What's the World Series?
We'll explain later.
Don't worry about it.
When it comes up on the podcast.
It's sports stuff.
Okay.
But right now the Cubs scored a home run in the first inning, and we're going to take it.
Sure.
Here are more updates to come of a game that is really
already
over.
happened.
So I'm gonna henge it.
Yeah, do it.
And I'm gonna say 4.1.
It's your book, man.
It's not the best book I've ever read. It's
Oh my God,
just
it's so
really
great.
good.
I think it is that. Like, there's so rarely, like, short stories and anthologies really throw me off because typically the hit to miss ratio is so low. I liked every single story in this. This is a 4.8, and I was bummed I didn't get the whole series from the library when I checked this out.
Oh, it's so Oh, the rest of them get way weirder.
Yeah.
I actually realized a lot of the stories I remember are from the later books because they are bizarre.
Really?
You gotta read them up. It's super fun.
And there's a fake math book too, Pedro.
There's
that's
everything is
wonderful.
wonderful. Yeah, I think that Louis Sachar is capturing something that no other author that I know of gets as clearly, which is this children's perspective. I'm so impressed with. I'm going to give this a 4.8. No, go ahead, Lee. What?
I don't know. I feel like Dr. Seuss does a damn good job of it.
I agree. I think maybe Dr. Seuss captures a little bit of a younger voice. This book was like my elementary school life. Like the existence of being in school and the sort of institutional facts that come with it. That's what he really like nails. In a way that it's just not Dr. Seuss's focus.
Dr. Seuss, I think, is more fanciful than this. This is really dry.
And it's still, like, Seuss has, like, elements of anarchy to it, but it's always in a very open setting, whereas this feels a bit more claustrophobic because of the school setting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the school is so fucking absurd.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's literally so narrow.
But
childhood is like that.
Just go on. Yeah, so is elementary school. Elementary school is like a weird place where you understand only half of what's going on around you, and you are constantly told what to do and where to go. And it's weird and nothing makes sense. And all the kids around you are also super weird because children are like aliens. Which I'm sure
they're disgusting.
Lee would agree with me on, yeah. Anyway, we were in the middle of henging, sorry.
Who needs to henge still?
Pedro and Lee.
Pedro.
Okay, I really liked it. I think it was wonderful. And I want more. 4.5.
Alright, Lee, let's hear it. Be
2.5?
truthful.
Ugh.
That's okay. No, because that's
No,
great.
sure.
We want a variety of opinions. There are a lot of people out there who probably dislike this book as well.
Like, when I was my most recent incarnation of being a child, I went from, like, Dr. Seuss to more serious chapter books. So, like, I skipped all this fancy nonsense because I didn't give a shit.
No, I get what you mean. Like, it's very silly. And it is... I remember my parents suggesting that perhaps it was not, like, great literature and being very offended because I was really into these. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's not... Yeah, no, it's not... It is absurd and pitched at an older audience than absurdity is normally pitched to. That makes sense to me.
I will make my pitch for silliness on a different day. Because today, we have to go to Texas.
Do we?
I don't wanna...
Today... We have to finish our long van ride and check out this uncle's house. But we might have to steer a little bit off path. It become part of...
Okay, let's also be clear. We don't have to do that.
The Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
What happened was true. The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America.
Suddenly I hear something. Stop!
This is the movie that is just as real, just as close, just as terrifying as being there. Even if one of them survives, what will be left? The Texas Chain Saw Massacre. After you stop screaming, you'll start talking about it.
Yes, this is the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. We're actually reviewing this. As if the intern's warnings weren't dire enough, he literally ended his 10-week-long warning with, you guys have to review the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
It's really something.
We just, awkwardly heard a knock at the door. I was worried who was behind it. Thankfully, it was just our dinner.
So hungry.
We are not under attack yet, but there is still more episode to come. The Texas Chain Saw Massacre is a very independent film that was made in Texas. It is very, very loosely inspired by the killer Ed Geis, who was also the inspiration for Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs. It is about 5 co-eds who, go out to this place in the middle of Texas and come across, well, this guy. He's known very commonly as Leatherface because he has someone else's skin on his face as a mask.
Which I would note is not leather, but whatever.
But also, more important than that, so many errors just happened on the screen that it's now 3-0 in the first inning.
Wait, what the fuck?
And a triple just happened.
Okay, by the way, Pedro, you guys screwed over because you were right in front of the score.
So, good things can happen, even
Don't
the worst
say
situations.
that. Oh my god, you're the worst.
But this is,
what the hell's going on? Did we just...
No, this is a replay.
Oh god!
Okay, replay. Okay. Anywho, Texas Chain Saw Massacre. Kids die from Leatherface.
But also someone just ran into the catcher and knocked him over at the front plate.
Okay, no, we can't do this the whole time.
Okay, sorry.
I was being quick and subtle, unlike Leatherface. This is one of the earliest and most influential horror movies in the slasher genre. It was at the time when independent film was becoming easier to do. It could be done very cheaply, hysterically cheaply sometimes, and this is something. Who would like to go first?
I will go first. I had never seen this before, and it's there are like the beginning and the end I like, but then when she's just being chased and screaming a lot, I feel like that it kind of went downhill there for me because the chase wasn't filmed particularly interestingly to me, and I feel like it just went on a little too long. But overall, it's a very early torturous watch.
Yes.
I think. Yeah. In the same vein, I think as Hostel is now and Saw, and did you already say that?
Sorry, no, I am
she's
gesturing
ready.
that I'm angry.
Oh, great! Yeah. It's just there's really no, because you start to identify with this girl, but then there's no hope for her at all. Yeah, that's my initial assessment.
Well, what? Let's have Pedro go first.
Yeah, I know. I'm saving. I have a thing to say about this movie, so other people can talk first.
Pedro, this is your first time watching as well, right?
It was. I'm kind of sad that I'm desensitized so much nowadays. I wasn't as grossed out as I was expecting to be. I thought this was going to be just actual red riveting flow everywhere, but it was more the implications or the implied settings. Everything was just slightly off camera, or just even the setting itself. You're something horrible happened here.
I agree, because I saw this movie about 6 years ago, and my memory of it was way grosser than what the film is. There actually isn't a lot of gore effects.
No.
There's just really bad things that happen.
Well, gore effects are expensive. I mean, it's not like it's not. Yeah, they don't have a budget.
I love that stat that I just came across. To be able to film within the budget, they had to film as fast as possible to keep the rental costs down for the equipment.
That's funny.
So they filmed 7 days a week and all that.
Wow.
I actually read a making of book about this away from this podcast. From the guy who played Leatherface, who's actually a poet major at the University of Texas, who's just a big guy and kept getting hired for.
That's funny.
I was more interested in the characters, which I guess is a good part. The family, the person, I didn't see him as just a piece of meat chasing other pieces of meat around, which is something that I guess you do lose in a very gore-centric alternative. But I wished I liked it more. I feel like there are other movies from that era that I enjoyed more.
I could guess.
I feel I don't know. Was this the first big cabin in the woods type feeling movie? I feel like that.
No, I mean there were always a lot of going out to a haunted house, but there was a difference between a haunted house kind of horror movie and a straight up independent slasher with a repeating character like this. So, yeah, Leatherface endured.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than they expected from this super low budget movie.
I mean, it makes sense. The guy's wearing flesh on his face.
And is this the first one, or one of the first, where it's like actual people who are the villains? And before, like when we were watching Dracula and stuff, it was more of a fantasy?
I am not the horror expert, but I do know. I mean, Monsters had a very big run, especially in the studio system, for a couple decades. But there were plenty of still like bad guy doing stuff. I mean, during that run, you had the bad scientist doing some shit.
Sure,
and it was always
there was an element of magic to it, right?
There was still a lot of fantastical elements, and this is kind of goes into the 60s and 70s style filmmaking, where it becomes way less theater-based, like very kind of broad characterization, heading more to just grimy, gross, sometimes just very unpleasant characters.
Gotcha.
And
yeah, because Psycho had come out already. Psycho came out in 1960.
Psycho was 1960.
Yes, thank you.
And that one, yeah.
Sorry, I can't contain it anymore. What we are learning here, and the reason that I believe that this movie is a bad movie that should not be on the list, is because the only thing that it contributed to film, from what I can tell from, so let me say, I watched this movie, I watched it the whole way through. I like horror movies. I expected, therefore, to like it. It's a classic horror movie. I mean, I was turned off by the title, but I really like horror movies. I think they're awesome. I think they say some of the coolest things that film has to say. All that this movie has to say is that it is fun to watch women be cut up and mutilated, and that is what is fun and what we should be looking for when we go to the theaters. All it has done is worsened its genre and worsened our souls. I really think this. And I think that there are certainly... I'm not going to give it a 0, because anything that contributes to a trajectory of film is worth watching for interest's sake. But just because something creates something new doesn't mean it creates something good. What this movie is a parade of characters with very little personality, going for shock value. All of the most iconic lingered shots are about the death and mutilation of young women who are sexualized. The villains are all men. It is, however, not making a comment about those women other than this is worth lingering on and this is what I want you to remember. It is nihilistic. It is gross. And just because it depicts something gross well, it's not like it's the first film to depict gore well. It's not the first film to shock us, and it won't be the last. When I compare it to something like The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, which is another movie that we've reviewed, which is gross. It's a gross movie. That movie, say whatever you will about it, but I think even Lee would agree, it has a purpose and a point. It's trying to say something with its violence. This is trying to say, violence is fun to watch, and it's particularly fun to watch when those victims are women. And that's what's going to sell movie tickets. Sorry,
Especially when it's based off of Ed Gein, who at the time was being very well publicized because he was this crazy serial killer from Minnesota. Like, that's not where you get, or Wisconsin or wherever, that's not where serial killers live. And when most of his victims are women, and then you make a movie character that's based off of him, but even worse? Like, what are audiences supposed to take from it?
I cannot defend the movie for a vast majority of its tone and its very simplistic and often pathetic way it looks at violence. But I do think that the most interesting part of the movie for me, and actually the really only interesting part of the movie for me, is how they depict Leatherface and his family.
Yeah.
I think it's the only real characters that the film is interested in. And it's interested in them in a really curious sense, because unlike Michael Myers, because Halloween came out similar to this time.
Before or after?
I feel like it's really close. But Michael Myers is crazy evil from the get-go, breaks out of the mental asylum, and goes off on a killing spree. At least in the first one, for no reason. This one, Leatherface only reacts when his home is in danger. It's danger from a very disturbed individual. Like, it's only when, like, his isolated surroundings are being damaged, and the film, to me, is trying to acknowledge, again, I don't think the most successfully, but about how society does treat those who have been, like, discarded from society, like, who have been, like, I think it's very interesting that of the 5 co-eds, one of them is in a wheelchair because of Vietnam. I mean, he got hurt in Vietnam. We're kind of looking at how people have been, how the response has been. And to have affection for Leatherface and his family, to me, isn't nihilistic, but weirdly curious about that. I think it is pointed. I think it's very successful, but I think it is trying and probably failing to go for something.
That's what I took away.
Sarah,
I guess I gotta say, I kind of think that, I mean, I get, when we were watching it, you mentioned, this is a movie that's partially about Vietnam. I get that.
Which I say about every film we watch.
Right, to be fair. But I also think that, like, most meaning that you can put on top of this film is in spite of the film and not because of it. Nothing that the film focuses on is about those themes. The big build-ups in this movie are not to understanding Leatherface's family so much as they are to what is the goriest way we can kill young women. And, like, I really, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm particularly emotional about this because of the election and because of everything that's going on, but what this represents is a very dark backlash tone of society against feminism that is very real and very dangerous, and physically dangerous to me as a woman in a way that I just cannot. It is, I mean, when I was thinking about how to look at this film, I actually had the thought, I should compare this to Birth of a Nation. I should compare this to a movie that centrally focuses on something and says something is good that I find deeply abhorrent. And while certainly I don't think that what the Texas Chain Saw Massacre depicts is as abhorrent as slavery, I do think that we are in a similar realm. It is going towards the basest parts of human society, and it has created a resurgence. There is documented evidence that unlike other forms of violence you can watch on television or watch in movies, like regular old violence, the watching of torture on screen desensitizes us, and particularly for men, towards women, changes our opinions on what is and is not acceptable to do other human beings.
There's actually a really disturbing study that I was reading while I was watching this movie about how men watching this movie the first time thought the images were kind of like disturbing, but the second time they watched it, they actually enjoyed watching the women be mutilated.
And I think that it's something, we live in a very morally relativistic universe where all art is the same and all art is okay because it's new. And anything new is good. This is bad. It gets to something that is dark and regressive and fundamentally male. Like, I would be interested to hear a woman defend this film as a great piece of cinema. I have trouble imagining who that person would be and what their argument would be.
No, I think it's really fascinating. Now I'm kind of thinking about a lot of the film. I swear I'm not like challenging you or anything, but I kept thinking about something we discussed earlier when we watched this movie, which is the episode of The X-Files, Home, which is extremely inspired by this movie, as so many other things are. And you are a big fan of Home.
Because what Home is about is the way Home, unlike this movie, when I'm talking about building focus, the focus it builds is to the themes you're talking about, is to isolation from society. It's about what do we do with our outcasts and our rejects? It's about what does it mean to be the throwback in a society that's moving forward. All of its narrative push is building towards those themes, and the gore and the horror is used as a tool to express those themes. That is not what this movie is doing.
No, even I, like, during that dinner scene, it didn't feel like they knew they were coming across a potentially very interesting point, and actually, no, like, it's like, it felt like they were just trying to creep you out more.
Yeah, this
by
is a
these
gross
people.
thing.
This is gross, ridiculous, whatever, just to demonize them more, without knowing that they actually touched on something that could have been made very interesting. And Home did that.
Yeah, Home I think, does what this movie
wants to do.
No,
it didn't even want to.
I don't even think it wants to.
It didn't recognize.
I think it did just poorly.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a bit biased. I did read the making of book, and it's from the perspective of the guy who played Leatherface, who he didn't mean to do this, but from his accounts, was apparently the smartest guy on set.
Well, right. I mean,
because he just seemed like really like introspective and very curious, but because he kind of just really kept talking about, because obviously he played Leatherface, so he kind of really thought a lot about the character, especially as a character who can not speak for himself. He just grunts and chases and turns on chainsaws and wears different faces and sometimes makeup on the faces. It was very interesting to kind of see him embrace it as a very mentally broken person, but not to use that for immediate scares, at least in the actor's mind. Mm-hmm. And I found that to be curious, but none of what he's saying was instructions from Tobe Hooper, the director.
Right. I mean, at some level, like, again, I think that is an interpretation by someone who wants the best out of this film. That doesn't mean it's what this film is about.
Sure. Lee, I'm guessing, do you agree with this?
Yeah, I am not a fan of gory movies, so like anything with massacre in the title, I'm automatically not a fan of. So I went into this with I boosted myself up for a week. Like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna watch this, and like my roommates and I, like, we planned, like, okay, I'm gonna get home from work, it's gonna be daylight still, we're gonna watch this movie, and then we're gonna do something else goofy afterwards. So like, it took a lot for me to watch this movie to begin with, and then when I got into it, it met all of my awful expectations.
Yep. Because this movie is not just a horror movie, it's a traumatic horror movie to watch as a woman. It's awful.
Like, I was reading the Wikipedia page as I was watching it because, like, I didn't want the jump scares and I didn't want to be surprised, so I wanted to know what was going to happen. And, like, for those of you who have not seen this movie, there is a scene where Leatherface takes this woman and just puts her on a meat hook. That's what he fucking does. He puts her on a meat hook. She's alive, and he puts her on a meat hook. And at that point, I was like, okay, as soon as I read that, like, they're still in the van, haven't picked up the hitchhiker yet, I'm like, okay, I don't like this movie. Because there's no way that, with the tone that this movie was setting, there was no way that was going to be filmed well.
And instead, it is filmed, the message that scene sends is not, Leatherface thinks this woman is a piece of meat, and it is, this woman is a piece of meat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about the perspective of the bad guy. It's about, like, that's what this movie says. And I would note, you know, when what we're calling its sequel, its successors are things like Saw and Hostel and The Human Centipede, frankly. It's not like any of its sequels really did anything different with it.
Yeah.
And it's really curious, because the other thing I kept thinking about, because I mean, obviously tone is everything. There's the simplest, most obvious thing I'm going to say all episode. But, you know, a show that is on the TV list, and one of my favorites in recent years, is Hannibal. And Hannibal's a TV show that... Well,
no, I'm shaking my head because I think it's an interesting thought. Continue your thought.
Yeah, no, it's kind of such a fascinating thing, because if we're just looking at, like, frames of gore on screen, Hannibal is grosser and crueler to the human body, yes. But it's a very different way of, like, Hannibal's actions are seen as beautiful in a very dark, satirical way.
Yeah.
But also, he's always depicted as an actual kind of plague on the world, and a sense of evil and dread, and it's a darkness that needs to be avoided, but it's still celebratory. Like, it's amazing how well that show depicts its monster differently than how this film depicts its monsters.
I agree, and I think that goes to what we were saying about Home as well, that Hannibal is a show that directs its purpose and its viewer towards something way more interesting than the gore. And the gore is necessary to that message. Like, I think, hi Mom, I'm sure you're listening, people who avoid Hannibal because of the gore are really missing out. I mean, it really does use that gore not the way this movie does, but to make specific, interesting points about the nature of human cruelty that they have like value and interest. Again, it's just, in some ways, it could not be a better example of what this movie is not.
Which is interesting because Hannibal also literally looks at his victims as pieces of meat, and when you see him preparing his dishes and everything, you see meat, but it could not be farther from
and I would note
the portrayal of
the show, maybe not the movies, but the show makes a very careful point of not making that a gendered point. That Hannibal's point is something else. And this movie is gendered. It's about women as meat. It's not about people as meat.
Yeah, the men were very... I mean, I think the goriest depiction of a man is when he gets run over by, 6 wheels of a truck?
Yeah.
It's a lot. But the other 2 guys are kind of really, like, killed rather quickly and thrown away.
3.
3.
Yeah.
That's right. It's 3 men, 2 women. But it's very quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. They don't prolong the deaths for the men at all.
They don't put them on meat hooks.
Yeah, they just go. Yeah, I totally agree. I had not even considered that when I was watching, because I was looking for like the hero's journey type stuff. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Sorry, I'm Debbie Downer here.
But
no, you're right.
Because you are correct.
I think this is a point that not enough people know actually is a thing about this movie, and so many other movies related to it that came after it. Because
so many films are way worse about it than this.
Yeah.
Which is not to excuse this film.
Right.
But, as we mentioned last week, Pedro and I went to a 24-hour horror fest, and I enjoyed watching all the films, but there was one film in particular called Torso that kept being like actually really brilliant about the negative aspect of the male gaze and how unsettling that does make a woman's experience and just being in any sort of safe public place. But then also it lingered on their naked bodies for like 5 minutes straight.
Yeah.
It's like the film was so like progressive and regressive at the same time. And you keep seeing horror films have a strong difficulty of the entertainment of the genre and what happens when you do that poorly. Because there can be fun in the ridiculous nature of how someone dies in a horror film. I just saw last night Final Destination 3, which is definitely a weak entry in the Final Destination franchise.
that it is.
But that is literally a whole franchise, really enough, created by the writers of Home.
Which is hilarious.
Of story is so hysterically minimal, it's just to get to the really hysterically contrived Rube Goldberg way that they're going to die. And every time the characters spoke, male and female in this movie, it was terrible. But it was really fun when they would like zoom in on like 15 different things in the room, and you don't know how they're going to connect until, sure enough, the suntan lotion door stopper ran out, and the door did this and hit that, and then 2 women blew up in a tanning booth.
Which, like, I really, in some ways, I that movie was hilarious to watch, drunk at the middle of the night with you, but I think Texas Chain Saw Massacre is fundamentally an entry in a different vein of horror.
I agree.
It's a vein of horror that I think we don't watch very much of, and the reason we don't watch very much of it is because it has no artistic merit. Those are my feelings.
This is interesting because I remember seeing like the first maybe half hour to an hour of the 2003 Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Which I've never seen any sequels.
And thinking back to it with this new perspective, it didn't seem like anything changed. But the reason why I wanted to look it up was because I remember specifically the person they impaled was a man, and I'm wondering if they were just like, let's just fix this. Let's just fix this one thing, and that'll be fine.
This only has one thing wrong.
Yeah,
with
there's definitely only one thing wrong with it.
Just the meat hook bit.
Oh,
I thought that was interesting. I'm positive the movie is.
I think it's
pretty
time
similar.
to hinge it because we're now over
Sorry.
an hour. No. This was. I think it was a very, very strong discussion, and I think it's time to hinge it. I am going to say I like this because I really changed my. I still think the movie has some curious merit. I'm gonna go 3 hinges.
I can deal with that. I have.
Sarah and I are still together.
I mean, like there's a worry, but no, I get
4.8.
Oh my god. No, I honestly was thinking about this in terms of similarities to Birth of a Nation, in that it is a new thing that I detest.
I also gave that a 3.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
I did too.
Well, I gave Birth of a Nation a 1.5. Birth of a Nation is a better movie than this by a lot. The things that it is revolutionary in are in spite of its premise, not because of its premise. Therefore, Texas Chain Saw Massacre gets. Wow, I might go below a 1 on this one. I think I'm gonna give it a 0.6. 0.6.
I gotta update my stats.
Sorry,
All right,
man.
do it again, guys.
0.5, just to make it round. 0.5.
All right, that is now Sarah's second lowest grade.
People, and I assume Mostarda de Fruta is worth. Let's be clear, Mostarda de Fruta is a greater crime against humanity than this movie.
But she is saying, if you have to watch one thing, watch Ray Donovan over this.
Oh god. Yeah, absolutely. Do that. Do that.
Which I actually think is worse for women.
Oh man, we're gonna have a whole conversation.
No, you gotta watch more Ray Donovan.
Okay.
Lee, what hinge rating?
You gave the cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover a 0.
I had more trouble actually making myself finish that movie than I did this one.
Fair.
I think it's tougher to watch.
It's harder to watch.
It's rough.
I'm gonna give this a 1.
Okay.
And only because it did kind of revolutionize the genre of film, even though I don't agree with that genre. It did do something.
Yep.
This is now Lee's second lowest review, so she'd rather you watch Alias over this. Okay.
Yes. Oh god, yes. Oh my god, I would hate watch more Alias before I saw that movie again.
Alright, Adam?
I'm gonna say... So I did like the beginning. I thought the beginning was very strong. It just, like, really went downhill after that. So I'm gonna give it a 2.4.
Alright. And Pedro?
I'm kind of in Austin's camp here. Thing is, there's a slew of other choices of things that you pick something about this movie, there's something else out there that is so much better to watch. But I understand why this finds itself in horror repertoire everywhere. So, 3.
Alright, that is the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. As of this recording, it's on Amazon Prime.
I also imagine if you do the average out, it may be our lowest rated movie.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Because you know what's better than this movie? Bigger Than Life, and I hate that movie.
Bigger Than Life is so
hate that
good.
movie.
I can't wait to get that to you for Christmas.
Oh my god.
Criterion Blu-ray! Alright, anywho. Now let's go right from the Texas Chain Saw Massacre to Rapture.
By Anita Baker.
Never leave, 'cause I believe I'm in love. Sweet love, now they're crying out your name. I feel no shit in my
So that was Rapture by Anita Baker. It's her second album. Came out in 1986, and it's definitely her most successful and most popular album. She never really quite reached popularity again, which is a little sad. Well, she's still recording, so she could still, but history shows she probably won't.
So who all listened to this one? I did, Lee did.
I listened to exactly half the album.
I listened to half of the first song.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
You bailed early.
It's not for any reason. I just ran out of time.
Okay, that's fair. So, Lee, how would you describe kind of the sound Anita Baker has?
Anita Baker is kind of a very stereotypical 80s R&B vocalist.
And I think, yeah, that was a bit of my problem.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, trying to figure out how I was going to talk about it, and my instant thought was, it's like a very generic Tina Turner.
Yes.
And I was very upset by that.
Because Tina Turner had some really cool ways that they kind of played the songs differently, kind of more experimental. These 8 songs all sounded extremely similar.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that they kind of all had the same kind of emotional moment, which just kind of made it feel weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one surprised me that I didn't like it. I was ready for some uplifting music.
I was just excited for another female artist, honestly. So
yeah,
that was
it's been a
that
while.
was exciting. But it's just kind of bland. And I actually watched an interview with Coolio recently, and
why?
He because he was on a YouTube show. It was really good. Anyway, he was talking about how in the music industry, one person will do something different and it'll be really, really great, and then everybody else will kind of try to sound like that one really great song. And then everybody gets kind of bored with it, and then until someone decides to do the next big thing. And I kind of feel like this was trying to ride the waves of success that Tina Turner had made earlier in the 80s, because Tina Turner's always been popular, and Private Dancer, which we reviewed earlier in our Immortals history, it was great, and it did a lot of really cool, unique things, and this album kind of sounds like the watered down version of it.
I agree, and you see that across all sorts of pieces of art as well. It's kind of trying to bank on, what's been done before. I think, Lee, you and I have talked about all the book titles that have the girl in the title.
Oh, Jesus Christ, every day there's another one. The Girl on the Train and The Girl from the Train are 2 different books. The Girl in the Red Coat and The Girl in the Blue Coat are 2 different books.
But
I have a lot of opinions about that.
I've read The Girl on the Train and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And, I've read, I think it's called The Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good book. Anywho, you're seeing that, and have you heard much more of Anita Baker beyond this album?
I haven't. This was actually my first real experience with her. The only song on this album that I actually recognized was the first one, Sweet Love, which is also her Grammy Award-winning song for Best Female Vocalist in 1987. So, it's a great song. It's just kind of generic and, kind of bland. There's a really actually great Rolling Stone review of this album where it talks about it's not as loud as Patti LaBelle. It's not as sassy as Aretha Franklin, but it still has a kind of quiet respect that you have, but it doesn't do anything too fancy. And that's kind of how I feel about it.
And that's been kind of the thing I was, looking back at the past year of our reviews, and I feel silly that it's only been a year, but I've now forgotten a number of these albums, and quite a number of these songs, and even books I've read all week. It's kind of amazing what sticks with you, especially when you're consuming this much art. I'm worried about the longevity of this album. But
I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna forget it. I'm not gonna go back to it, and it's bad when you listen to an album and you're immediately like, you immediately are reminded of a different, better album.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Like, I listened to this, I was like, oh, this is like Private Dancer by Tina Turner, but not as good.
I liked Private Dancer.
It was really good. It was in episode 40, if anybody wants to go listen to our review of that.
Nice. Check that out. All right, I think we just got to hinge it up now.
2.5. It's not bad. It is by no means bad. It's just not great.
Yeah, I'll give it 2.8. Wait, Pedro just whispered he liked it.
I did. But no, actually listening to your guys' points makes it even sadder, because they're all valid points. I really like listening to it while I was listening. It's just really smooth, good music. But you're right, I'm going to forget this real soon. I don't know if I'm ever going to hear it again.
You're halfway through it.
I am halfway through it. I definitely want to finish it.
You should. It's 4 more songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well that is Rapture by Anita Baker. If you like it, please let us know, and we will happy to listen to more Anita Baker, because she has a nice voice. I think she just needs better songs.
Yeah.
Alright, what is the food this week, Sarah?
Well, man. Okay, so I was super excited about this, and then it was a failure. So Zampone di Modena is a sausage, and I love sausage, from Italy. And I was super excited, so I went to Italy to look for it, and a lot of other, and like searched around the internet and all this stuff. What's really unique about Zampone di Modena is that it's a fresh pork sausage that is stuffed inside, instead of being in like an intestine casing, it's in a casing made out of a pig's foot. Which is cool, and it looks cool, but the problem is, that kind of fresh sausage is definitely not something you're allowed to import, cause trichinosis. So, don't think it's available in the States. If you know where it is available in the States, I would really love to try it, because it sounds delicious, but certainly the original Italian version is not importable. So, sorry about that, guys, but, I'm sure it's great, and if you know where to find it, let me know.
Alright, that was the food review.
Aww.
Just to recap so far, we've had a very sexist film, a very forgettable album, and a no-show for the food. Pedro, defend our 50th episode.
I don't know if I can anymore.
Alright, this is the song that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
Pedro, what song is this?
The song is Shipbuilding by Robert Wyatt. It's a great song, I think. I'm starting to forget it. It came out in 1982, written by Elvis Costello and partner, Clive Langer. Elvis Costello did the lyrics, Clive Langer did the music. At first, they weren't going to bring Robert Wyatt into it, but after a lot of reworking, they brought him in to just test out just record for an hour or so, and they loved it, and he is now the most popular version of the song. It is really pleasant to listen to. It's really smooth, clean. I wish I knew more about the lyrics, because it's about the Falklands War.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I keep reading the lyrics right now, and the second you said Elvis Costello, I'm like, oh, of course. It has a very... I liked the smooth vibe to it. And this lyric just plays off like a story. This is just a story, yeah. And the story, I think, does work, and the elements that does make it unique, the soon will be shipbuilding, is admittedly a bit strange, but it's strange in I think a personal way. Mm-hmm. I just never found the lyric that's repeated, diving for dear life when we could be diving for pearls.
That's the Falklands War bit.
Yeah, I never found that to be... I thought that was forced. I didn't like that. And it's like the hook of the song is that that kind of like perspective, not turn, but I found the imagery to be a little silly. And it's a bummer for a song that actually kind of has a really like intentionally somber, effective tone to it.
Well, they were playing off, I forget who commented it, but the sort of irony that the war boosted shipbuilding industry.
That had
And the
been
people
dying.
that were working there were the people whose sons were being shipped off to war to die in those very boats. And that kind of irony, I guess, is what they wanted to play off. Which I wish I was more enthusiastic about this song.
I mean, it's hard because it's not my history.
Yeah.
You know, I think that if a similar song that made a really sort of, pithy joke about, which it is kind of a joke in some ways, the diving questions and the shipbuilding lyrics about, say, the Iraq War, which similarly sometimes felt like a sort of farcical mess in the way that I know the Falklands War. The little that I know about the Falklands War, which is like almost nothing.
It's embarrassing.
But it's got like a similar kind of vibe to it of like, we should never have been here and this is dumb. Because it's not my history, it was hard to sympathize, but I wished that I could. Like, I can see how this song could have been really powerful in that context.
I also have a strange separation from it because, well, most of us were Europeans, basically.
Well.
And they were not the ones that were... Okay, actually, I don't want to get all conflicted here. It's still a really hot topic in Argentina. If you bring it up to the wrong people, you will majorly offend them and possibly put yourself at risk. Because they suffered big time.
So interestingly, in September 2013, apparently Elvis Costello and the Roots released an answer song.
Yep, I saw that.
Written in the perspective of the other side of the conflict. A duet sung in Argentinian Spanish.
Yep.
Which is really cool, and now I really want to listen to that.
Yeah,
Thank
now
you,
I want to
Wikipedia.
listen to that and compare it. But yeah.
Just
a little while.
Here's a question
I know,
for
right?
everybody. Although, I'll say it after we get Leah and Adam take on the song, so we need to hear their take first. Leah or Adam?
Oh, right now.
Yeah, I was confused by that too.
Sorry.
Adam's watching the World Series.
I have a tangent question, but no, we haven't got a first takes yet. I want to get it out there. Adam?
Sure, I'm certainly a lot more interested in the World Series than in this song, although I did enjoy it. And I didn't really think too much about it, just listened more to the style and the flow of it, which was really good. It made me feel like I could sit at a bar by myself and smoke a cigarette and have a brew. And that's really all that I look for in a song. Something to listen to when I'm alone.
Is it brewable?
It's yes.
What's
it
its
made
brew
me
mode
brewed.
ranking?
Do you get it? Brewed.
No, I did.
Yeah, we
ignored
got it.
it.
It just wasn't funny.
I wasn't trying to be funny. I was trying to...
okay.
That's not what your face said.
I know.
We're all here in the room with you except for Leah. We can see it.
It's really hard to talk during the World Series. But that's my assessment of this song.
All right.
No, because that's what I thought too. But are you gonna remember it in like a week?
I don't know. I don't
no,
think I will.
I don't.
Nope.
Exactly.
Remember
Exactly.
I think I will probably look out for some of his other songs, but
I'm curious. I am curious about him.
Lee, what did you think?
I was kind of excited when the song started because I'm a big fan of like this genre, but I could not stand his voice. Oh my god, like his
I
voice.
thought it was smooth. Okay.
No, there were a couple parts where it was just like really grating to me, and that made me sad. Because like it's a song about ships, and it's kind of a folky kind of sounding song about ships, and I loved the Edmund Fitzgerald song, so I figured this one would be good too. Nope. Mm-mm.
I like Master and Commander. This should have worked. Well, the question I wanted to propose was, because this is so tied into the Falklands War, do you think that war art should be more universal, or is it more effective when it is just about this war?
Oh, man.
I think it's more effective when it's just about that war, or at least about those people. Because like this song is not going to be effective to me or for me because I don't give a shit about the Falklands War. Like that's not something that affected me ever. So I don't really care about this song. Whereas someone else who happened to be very close to the Falklands War might enjoy the song more.
Yeah, I feel like war has that same feeling as Unhappy Families in Tolstoy. Like, every war is horrible in its own way. Like, they're all horrible. But the specific horrors of an individual war... I mean, there's so much Vietnam War art. Did we know that we're talking more about the Vietnam War? The Vietnam War. But all of those are about, like, a very specific experience in American history. And I think even more as... hopefully it continues that wars become smaller and more focused and therefore more, hopefully fewer world wars and more sort of individual experiences. I think it is important to talk about the ways in which different wars are terrible. And that's what I thought was interesting about these lyrics, is that it is like, it's a very, I mean, in the same way, Where Have All the Flowers Gone is a song that's about the Vietnam War, that is about like a very specific kind of like horrible thing about the Vietnam War and the loss of a generation. Similarly, I feel like this is very much about like a very specific thing about the Falklands War, and I think it's more powerful because of that.
Are we ready for hinges?
I think so.
Sure.
All right, Pedro, what do you say?
3.6?
3.5?
3.3.
3.6.
3.
Yeah.
All right, that is Shipbuilding by Robert Wyatt. Did I get that right?
Wyatt?
I'm trying to say W-Y-A-T-T.
Yeah, you're just from Indiana.
Wyatt.
Got it, Wyatt. All right, now it's time for... Okay, we had a forgettable song, but we're still going to get this podcast around. This is going to be the booming, exciting episode 50. This is what people have been looking forward to. What books we got this week, Adam?
A pair of Jesus boots.
Christ.
Yep. So this is a book about a young man named Rocky, who he's in a gang in Liverpool post World War II, and that's kind of what the book is about. It's just him roaming around with this gang. He's how old would you say he is, Austin?
I got like 10.
10 or 11? Yeah, I would agree.
And he's in a gang already?
It's very much like street gang. It's the adults are annoyed about them, but not like threatened by them.
Yeah, they do.
It's like a step below West Side Story gangs.
Sure. Yeah, they don't do any violent crimes. It's all like breaking and entering and stealing stuff. So it's.
But
like
they do have a rivalry, and like
yeah,
that gets heated.
Yeah, they get into a big fight with another gang, and the main character's brother is in jail, and he's about to get out, and so he's excited for that. But then once he gets out, bad stuff starts to happen. But that is like 2/3 through the book. So one thing that is really important to me is that Jesus boots are sandals, and so he calls his sandals, because he can't really afford any other shoes, Jesus boots, but they're like Birkenstocks essentially, according to the front cover photograph. It's not a drawing; it's a photograph.
Oh yeah,
which is interesting,
distracting.
But I like shoes and like Adam. As a fashion statement, I think shoes are very important.
Okay.
Birkenstocks are the worst thing that you could possibly...
Whoa. I will fight you on that.
Go on.
I bought a pair of Birkenstocks in March, and I have worn them every single day since I bought them.
Why?
Because they're the most comfortable shoes you're ever going to wear.
This is like their street gangs.
Yeah.
They're super comfy. Like, I will wear them over any other shoes. I'm actually very sad because it's getting colder here, and I'm not going to be able to wear them once it snows on the ground.
Well, for me, if it looks bad, that is uncomfortable. So, that's kind of where I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that I'm more right than you are. That's my argument. Anyway, that's not what this book is about at all.
It's really not.
No.
The shoes are barely part of it.
So, positives.
It's a terrible title.
It's a really bad title, because it plays into... he has one instance where the grip on the shoes helps him out, but it's not a great title. Some of these books that we've read, I dread reading them, but like picking up this book, it's a pretty easy read. The prose is entertaining. The dialogue, I don't want to say it's good, but it's not. It's interesting.
I thought there actually was a much stronger authenticity about this book than other books, because like this is something that like a jerk 10-year-old would actually read and like.
Yeah,
because it doesn't force a message down your throat as much as you would think.
Mm-hmm.
It actually kind of has like he kind of comes across some of his ideas on his own based on situations, and I thought that like the way he lived his life made sense. Like I get why he was doing what he was doing, and that was refreshing because especially when you have adults trying to write children, especially bad kids, it could be very hokey or just really judgmental early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that worked for this book. Whether or not it was very interesting, I don't think Rocky is a very compelling character, and that is a major problem. But I can see a different title. I can see a lot of like 10-year-old boys reading this actually.
Yeah, I think that they would have had a better title if there was more of a story early on. Like if the story, I think the story was his brother coming out and how that affects Rocky's life.
Yeah.
But again, that didn't happen until much later in the book, and I think that could have been more of the like break into Act 2 or whatever.
Sure.
You know.
Well, I did like that they kind of set up Rocky's life a bit. Like you kind of see how it works. It wasn't just like a one scene kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you kind of got like what he would be sacrificing if he kind of gave up this lifestyle, and kind of like the sense of authority he does have in these kind of small situations.
Right.
But it just was really not compelling enough. It had elements there.
Yes, of like his aggrandizing his life and his brother's life. Yeah. I definitely think that's what it was going for, and not quite making it, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. It's not the worst book we've read.
No.
I say that a lot, I think.
I think it's most of our reviews. All right, let's hinge it.
Yeah. 2.1.
3.1.
Okay.
All right, that's a pair of Jesus boots. Sylvia Sherry wrote that book, and
this is not the only one in the series of Rocky books.
Really?
She wrote more books about Rocky.
I don't want to read that.
I know. I don't either.
This works as a complete story.
Yeah.
That's
maybe, you know, honestly, if he was, it ends in a restaurant with him eating in a restaurant, like The Sopranos, I guess.
I thought you were going to make a Sopranos joke.
But he, you know, if the book was somehow only in that restaurant the whole time, I would read that to see if it was interesting. Like, that's a high concept for a book.
Okay.
Go on.
Sure. All right, now it's time for the final segment, the TV show segment. And it's always fun to do these TV show segments because sometimes it's an opportunity for me to watch a classic show that I've never really had a chance to watch, like St. Elsewhere, or discover something new that I really liked, like Parenthood. And then sometimes I go, I've never heard of this show before. I wonder if it's going to make any sort of impact on my life. This was not At Home with the Braithwaites. This is a boring show, with boring people doing boring things. It lasted 4 seasons. It was created by Sally Wainwright, who went on to make very successful shows like Last Tango in Halifax and Happy Valley, both of which are on the list, and both of which I've seen more episodes of. Way better than this. This is a mess. This is a soap opera. It lasted 4 seasons about the Braithwaites. And the mom wins $38 million in the lottery and then keeps it a secret for seemingly no reason And then she makes a charity foundation, which I've now seen half the show. Apparently, they just do stuff. Like her opening pitch for was she wanted to do good things, and then they got a staff, and they still have not named one thing they actually do. They just have people walk around with papers a lot and say she's in charge. It's really bizarrely uncompelling what she's doing. But the subplots. Peter Davison, a.k.a. the Fifth Doctor, a.k.a. the main reason you should watch the show, if a doctor's in it. He's bad in this. He's not good in this role as the husband who is, this is a very provocative plotline, he's having an affair with his secretary.
What? That's never been done before.
I know. And it was crazy because, there were scenes where, he had, I have to go to my daughter's play. But also, I want to have sex with my secretary. Very compelling drama. Then you have another daughter who I kind of kept forgetting existed. She was in a play for a bit, and then she stopped going to school for a bit, and then she became pregnant and got married for a bit, and I don't remember her character's name. Then there's another daughter who is gay. That's it. That's all we got there. Then there's a third daughter who, as of 11 episodes, has yet to have a plot line. She is just wearing glasses.
So all those things could be interesting if they develop well.
Uh-huh.
Do they?
No, it is so boring. Every performance seems like they're on Benadryl. It's just nothing happens, and also the direction is so pathetically amateur all the time. There's so many zoom-ins for not provocative moments, and they occasionally try to be crazy drama by having dream sequences, which are shot so horribly, and they're so embarrassing to watch that it's actually a bit uncomfortable how bad they are. And none of the actions make any sense. Across the board, it felt like they were out of plot lines in episode 3, so I am curious to finish the show to figure out what actually would happen in season 3 or 4. But it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad show that I don't know why it's on the list. It's just because everyone involved went on to make better shows. But this isn't like Sports Night where you go, oh, I love The West Wing. What did you do before this? Oh, this show's awesome. This is the opposite of that. If you love Happy Valley, which is a really cool Fargo-like thriller, which is one of the biggest hits in the BBC right now, don't watch At Home with the Braithwaites, which even the title is so boring. It's really... It
just doesn't sound like a soap opera. Because soap operas are melodrama. But this sounds...
Oh, the music's melodramatic.
Oh.
You
didn't say that before.
Well, because it's really embarrassing. To have characters pause awkwardly sometimes with this music of, I guess we have to go to the play now. It's terrible. It's a really terrible... It made me laugh how much no one cared about this show, because at one point, when first daughter... No, wait, she's the second daughter. Christ. She was skipping school, and they had a lot of zoom-ins and zoom-outs, because it was crazy and radical what she was doing. They come across an art museum. They clearly couldn't afford to go in the art museum, so it's kind of stand outside the art museum a lot. But some old people are playing chess, and because they're just radical kids, they steal one of the chess pieces and run because they're dicks. But no one involved even cared about making that right, because you watch one of the old people pick up the knight and move it ahead 2 spaces and put it down, and wait for the next guy to move. But it wasn't a commentary of how these old senile people. Just no one even gave a fuck about how the chess pieces moved in this show. This is
yeah, because that's not how a knight.
That's not how a knight moves.
Goes.
Boringly bad. 2 hinges. Still gonna finish it.
I think that says more about you than it does about the show.
This is... I've given enough clues about my personality in 50 episodes. Like, there's a lot going on there. But, yeah, don't watch it. But anywho, that is episode 50.
We did it.
Hey!
Woo!
I learned nothing terrible.
And silence. Ah, that is refreshing. No more of the incessant jabbering about numbers and henges. Why can't you simply stick to your purpose and relieve us of your nonsense? You recognize this voice, don't you? So you know there are going to be some changes in the future. A lot of changes. What are you calling yourselves now? The Immortals? A cleaner name than some of your other idiotic nomenclatures, I suppose. How many have there been now? Do you even realize how long you've been doing this? Do you even remember the masters you've been serving with all of your reviews, decade after decade, century after century, always close to completing your 1001, and then back to the beginning? Broadcasting your show this time was a nice touch, may even help you out in the end. I could hear your show in my cell before the locks started breaking. I could always hear you. I hear what you say about me. You all have so many reasons for why you are the way you are. You believe you've had different iterations. You believe you can shapeshift. But how could that even remotely be true? I cursed you with immortality, not superpowers. None of you think it's odd that you can barely remember anything beyond 30 years ago? You're not remembering what you were supposed to be remembering. It's like your little brains are trying to rationalize the fear that your memories are not your own. Your lives are not your own. They're mine. If you try to stop what you're doing, that could be fun. I can't punish you with death, of course. In your case, death is a reward. But I do wonder how your food might taste while you are trapped on the fiery surface of Mercury. Or how the albums might sound while you have a 10-ton boulder pressing your body into the earth. Or what could happen if I don't allow Gotham to be canceled in the near future. The art is immortal. Your security is not. There is no need to fear as long as you behave. As of now, your reviews will no longer be powering the old gods. Their time is through. I have a better use for you. Your greatest nightmare is now your reality. Your greatest fear is in front of you. The words you never wanted to hear are about to be said. Bethany is back.